Hello everyone and welcome, I'm Kiv, your favorite degenerate, and today I want to talk about Halo Infinite's radar. I have a lot of problems with this radar, and I think there's a couple of things that we could do to help improve it, so I thought I'd spitball some ideas. Really quickly, before I get into the radar, no, I don't have a sponsor because my channel is tiny and insignificant, but I wanted to say thank you to everyone for their constructive criticism on my last video. I could have done that video in a better way, and I understand and I appreciate that now, so I will make sure that my future content is up to scratch for you. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that. Getting back on track, what you guys are watching right now is my only 2 games of player versus player from the first round of Halo Infinite's flighting. This is mostly me just being stupid, but I actually didn't realize that they turned on the PvP until over an hour into it, so I only got to play 2 games, and they were terrible. I'll be honest here, the first game I played against real players, I got absolutely freaking demolished. I was abused. It was low-key depressing, so that's why you're mostly going to be watching the second game. The reason I wanted to show the PvP games that I got is because, well, it's the best reference point if we're going to be talking about the radar, and I cannot sit here and pretend as if bots are fully realistic, because they are some of the best I've ever seen, but they're never going to play exactly like how real players do. I think other people have already given feedback, but I wanted to be comprehensive and just cover all of it, so I do apologize, but I'm going to be starting out by just explaining what the deal is with the radar in the first place. So, they copied over the radar from Halo 5's competitive scene, and I think this was a huge mistake, because that radar would only show you on it if you were performing an action. If you were just normally running around, you would not actually show up. Sprinting would, but just normal movement would not show up, and that was to slow down the game speed. Now in Halo 5, that's perfectly understandable. That makes a lot of sense, because pro players in Halo are a different beast entirely. They do some pretty crazy stuff, but the difference here is that Halo Infinite, the pacing of it is much more similar to Halo Reach and Halo 3. By making this change to the radar, what 343 have essentially done is they have made being sneaky very powerful. Now, the reason why that's a huge problem to me is because normal social multiplayer, it just really slows down the pace, and I don't think Halo Infinite needs that. As far as I'm concerned, I think that social multiplayer, you should spend a majority of your time shooting at people, not looking for people to shoot at. That was one of the most important differences that I noticed when I went across from versing the computer to versing actual players. Actual players would be much more sneaky and much more difficult to track down. And yes, that is very normal for some multiplayer areas of Halo, that you do have to try and have a bit of a cat and mouse trying to figure out where the enemy is, but it's made much more difficult without the information from a motion sensor, which is why I don't think it belongs in social matchmaking, where people are much more focused on having action, having fun, and just really enjoying Halo and not thinking as much about strategy. I think it's perfectly fine to have this type of radar in the competitive scene, but I just don't really think it belongs in the social matchmaking scene. That's my opinion on it. Just have a look at a couple of these examples here, where I was in my first game against actual players, and I wasn't checking behind myself a lot of the time, and I got demolished. But what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is me checking corners with grenades and relying on grenade hit markers to tell me if there is an enemy there or not. Like, I literally had one of these moments where I just walked straight into things without really thinking it all through, and then the second time round, it was like, fire everything into that room, just explosions everywhere. Okay, nothing happened? Alright, we're good, the room's clear, let's move on. But the problem with that is that I'm now wasting my grenades for an enemy I don't even know is there. Now look, to be fair, if you're playing an older Halo and someone is hiding in a corner, you're not going to see them and you're still going to get killed. But in Infinite, you don't have to worry about sitting still in a corner. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. There are a couple of examples that you guys have seen already where if I was able to see normal movement, I would have been able to tell that someone was sneaking up on me. So that's why I think that social multiplayer should have a really good radar, something that gives you a lot of information. But competitive, I mean, you could go either way. One other change I would make to the radar is I think that the range should be a little bit longer. I think 20 meters is just a little bit too short. Previous Halos have had it at 25 as well, and I think that is the sweet spot for giving you a good amount of info, but not overwhelming you with a whole bunch of people that are outside of your range entirely anyway. So I think 25 meters would be good, just to visually show you how far you can actually see on the radar. That gravity hammer is supposed to be 20 meters away from me in-game. So you can see that your radar isn't really reaching all that far. Anyone who's played Recharge knows that you can sprint for the hammer and you can cover that distance in the blink of an eye. It really isn't that far. So I think a little bit more, just an extra 5 meters would give me a lot more info to go off of. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the radar, what the problem is with it, and how we can go about fixing it. I think that would really help to make normal social PvP really entertaining and also not make people feel as if they've been screwed over in certain situations. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below, and that's just about it from me. So I've been Kiv, and I'll see you all on the next one.